Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's March 16th, 2022, St. Patty's Eve. I am Jory Myers, and I'm very, very grateful for today. Have you guys here tuning in. There are a couple things that I wanted to get started with, and I wanted to say, first is diesel prices, man. They are ridiculous. I want to say that it is probably $2 more than we're paying for each gallon than we did this time last year. So prices are just out of control. I want to say that the U.S. average is about $5.25 per gallon of diesel, but the Cali average is about $6.26, which is definitely ridiculous. So brokers, these fuel surcharges, they're very important right now. Go ahead and share that wealth. And on a lighter note, I did want to give a shout out to Grace Sharkey. She is a friend of the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse. She's written some write-ups about us with Freight Waves, and she's just overall a freight tech guru at this point. She has her own show now on Sirius XM Radio. It's going to be, it's going to be launching, I think it launched this week, actually, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., talking nothing but logistics. So congratulations to her. I can't wait to tune in. You definitely deserve it because this is your lane, Grace. So congratulations to you. We do have our distinguished guest on stage already. How you doing today, Eric?
Doing all right, Jory. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining. For the people who don't know who you are, Eric, can you please introduce yourself, and then we're gonna get into VenderFlow.
Sure. Oh boy, myself. Well, I'm Eric Rodriguez. I'm the CEO of VenderFlow. I've been in tech companies for 10 or 11 years now. I got my start in trucking about 4 years ago, trucking tech, and I'm out in Los Angeles, downtown to be specific, where my favorite tacos are in all of town. So next time you're around, I'll be sure to show you.
You said your tacos, your favorite tacos?
Oh, for sure. It's called guisados. It's what I call grandma-style tacos. The meats are very stewed. It's some special stuff. You got to be here to experience it.
To be honest, man, that sounds like my style. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah. Good.
I had an opportunity to get to LA for the very first time in life last July, and the street tacos, man, I couldn't get enough of them.
You can't go wrong. They're everywhere you turn, and that's why I like being in a walkable part of town. Never identified as a walking person, but everything's around me, so it's great. I just came back from an errand and got some steps in. Can't complain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, look, the funny thing is, I'm not even surprised that we opened off talking about food. It's because,
right.
You at your University of California days, you were part of the cooking club, is that
boy.
where you got that? Is that where you kind of like got into tech? Is that what inspired that?
That's some pretty deep background research you did there. I haven't heard about that. I forgot that I did that. No, in college, yes, I was in the cooking club. And when I was in college, I didn't even know how to make eggs. I didn't know anything. But for whatever reason, I decided to get into the restaurant industry. So I worked in various restaurants around the San Francisco Bay Area for my, let's say, early 20s. And I got to work at a really high-end restaurant called Gary Danko. At the time, they were winning all the awards, all that good stuff. And, some celebrities coming and going. It was a pretty wild experience. And I got yelled at a lot, too, which is a hallmark of being in a high-end restaurant. And now I'm kind of immune to being yelled at. It's a superpower.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That is awesome, man. Okay. And I would say that, another superpower is being able to hear no all the time and it not bother you. If you can hear no and you can just tackle that next moment with just as much charisma, just as much energy, you are on your way. You are definitely on your way.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, look, so your first stint in tech, would you say that was the co-pilot?
Yeah, it was actually a company called BloomSpot. So everyone here might remember back in 2010, 11, 12, when Groupon was super hot, the daily deal thing. Kind of a social fad, if you will, right? And BloomSpot was kind of like a high-end coupon company competing with Groupon. There were like 20 companies trying to be Groupon at the time, and that was one of them. So that was my first taste of startups. Honestly, I found it on Craigslist. I found the job on Craigslist. I mean, honestly, I was kind of lucky just by virtue of being in San Francisco. You can kind of just walk outside and find yourself a tech job, which can set you up for a fun career in that space.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what type of experience or skill sets, or even, I don't know, what you get from doing Copilot? Like, was that something that helped you, shape what you're doing right now with VenderFlow?
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, Copilot was one of several early stage technology companies that I've been at. And, really the most important thing is to enter industries with an interest in learning and having an open mind and having a certain humility to let folks who know their way around show you the way around. And eventually you'll make some observations, and eventually, hopefully, you'll come up with some good ideas and solutions over time.
Yes, sir.
If you
yes,
take the time.
Sir. Yes, sir. And, so we go from the restaurant industry. We have that stint with the, marketing with Copilot. Sure. And then, you go over to CapLinked, and you're the director of sales, and you're dealing with, a lot of major corporations. You become, director of sales. So now you're actually thinking about structuring companies and, how all this stuff flows together. What type of knowledge did that give you in how you wanted to structure VenderFlow? And I guess before you even answer that, sure, let's talk about VenderFlow. All right. So tell me, what is VenderFlow and how does it relate to trucking today?
Right, sure. So VenderFlow. So the vast majority of the VenderFlow team, there's about 6 of us, myself and 5 others. The 5 others are software developers spread across North America primarily. Most of us came out of our prior employer, Next Trucking, which was kind of a digital freight broker associated with Drayage primarily out in El Segundo, Los Angeles area. Mm-hmm. And that's how we got our sort of feet wet, shall we say, in trucking. We were there for a couple of years. And that's where we made a lot of observations, not just with them, of course, but other logistics folks we did our research with and talked with. We observed the sort of scope and scale of communications and logistics. There's a lot of opportunity there. In the same way that Project 44 is a fantastic visibility solution for logistics, we're over here at VenderFlow asking, what about communications? That's an everyday facet where operations folks are talking with truck drivers, warehouses, shippers, terminals, steamship lines, and everything in between all day long over email, phone, and call in a way that's usually kind of an unstructured way, just kind of writing love letters at each other over email. Hey, you, hope you're having a good Tuesday. Anyway, what's going on with this one shipment? Details, which is a very unstructured way to communicate. We're inspired by solutions like Calendly. If folks know Calendly, that's one where you schedule meetings with people, right? You send them a Calendly link. They click the link, they pick a time, and what happened there is you captured structured data from that person. You booked a meeting that integrates with the calendar, so now your calendar has a meeting on it. But when you sent them that link, they didn't have to install Calendly. They didn't have to set up a login and password and a profile with Calendly. No, 2 clicks and boom, you got the information you're looking for. And we're looking to bring that concept to a lot of logistics interactions. The other aspect that we're really excited about is the fact that truck drivers, in our experience, frequently don't like to use these special driver apps. I believe you were talking about that with Abby last week, where by our count, there's got to be 50 to 100 of these mobile driver apps. I'm talking TMS apps, marketplace apps, load board apps, visibility apps. And from our research, drivers only use those things about 25% of the time, and I don't blame them, because why should they have 10, 20 apps on their phone to do these basic interactions? And so what is VenderFlow? VenderFlow, the solution here, is to allow the broker, forwarder, shipper to interact with drivers in a way that's more friendly. To say, hey, driver, you use whatever channel you like. If you like SMS or WhatsApp or WeChat or Telegram, Facebook Messenger, and it's funny, some drivers even on Instagram with this type of thing, we can just reach you wherever they prefer. So you can push those communications to offer them a load, to ask for documents, to ask for GPS, by those channels they're already using, like WhatsApp in particular. And so the driver can submit that data back, and everybody's happy. The driver gets to use what they like, and the broker gets to collect the data that they want. So that's the solution we're offering to reduce the friction in communications.
Nice. And, I have firsthand experience on the friction of communication, being a dispatcher, owning Atlanta Dispatch LLC, and having to communicate with drivers. Even before I owned this dispatch company, however, back in the day when I was working for a corporation, being a dispatcher and dispatching, about 13 dry vans, it was the kind of the motto or the mantra of, let the drivers drive, communicate with me. That's what I was telling the brokerages. Hey, communicate with me. But now, I'm in that space where brokerages still need to get, information. And now things are just, siloed. They're broken off. These are different motor carriers. So they're not even all under one TMS that I can see their location. You know what I mean? So now I have to communicate with them. And this seems like it'll be very helpful for, a dispatch service, just being able to, have that integrated into your TMS, and you do all these things from the computer versus, all of these different phone numbers and text messages here and there. It seems like it would just keep it all streamlined. Would you agree that's, one of the hidden gems in doing it?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say it does keep things organized because, I talk to brokers all the time and they say, oh, yeah, we do communicate with drivers through all these channels, but it's all split up. It's sometimes email, SMS, WhatsApp, Telegram, and beyond. And what that looks like, though, is you have a dispatcher using their personal phone, their personal Telegram, their personal WhatsApp to do this communication. That's not really a professional way for a business to be doing communication. So to draw a distinction here, as a business, your operations team should be able to push communications into one portal, and VenderFlow will figure out, okay, this driver likes WhatsApp, cool, route it there. This driver likes Telegram, wonderful, route it there. So you guys don't need to worry about the broker, don't need to worry about maintaining all these different channels. You get the benefit of the driver gets what they want, and for you don't have to worry about all these different silos. You get one centralized view of, or omni-channel, if you like, of all these communications that are happening in your organization.
Right. And how do you is it just more of a question answer thing of how you find out what the driver prefers?
Yeah, the way this is looking is, okay, so if there's a broker and they communicate with an owner operator, they would put their phone number in VenderFlow basically. And the VenderFlow would send a sort of introductory communication to the driver that says, hey, we're on VenderFlow, and what channels do you prefer? And what's interesting is, if you give us VenderFlow a phone number, we can sort of, for lack of a better word, I'm not an engineer, but query or ping to see, okay, well, does this driver have WhatsApp? True, false. Does this driver have instant messenger? True, false. And then we could say, okay, well, these are the 4 channels they use. So we can hit them, we'll have to guess to start off. We'll hit them at one of them and say, hey, driver, what do you prefer? And we can default to whatever that is. Because you're going to benefit by getting a happier driver who's less burdened with these special driver apps. And also you're going to get faster response times, which is good for you and good for your customer, because your customer wants insight into what's going on with these shipments. So really it's a way to reduce the friction to reach them where they are.
Okay, look, and I might be showing my age here, man, but what's Telegram? I've never heard of Telegram.
There's a lot of them. There's got to be 6, 7 of these social messaging apps, and I don't think we'll be supporting TikTok anytime soon, but how things go. So Telegram, Telegram might not like this description. They're very similar to WhatsApp is the description.
Okay.
It's funny. So the way you think about these different apps, a lot of them line up on sort of geographical lines. It's kind of like, well, you use whatever your friends and family use. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, friends and family will generally line up into their own groups and communities. And what we're seeing is, so WeChat's an easy one, right? WeChat is Chinese. So, yeah, it's going to be predominantly used by the Chinese driving community. That makes sense. That one's not hard, right? But WhatsApp is funny because, WhatsApp is generally popular worldwide. But very popular in India and very popular in Latin America and South America. So that's another one. Some of our earliest customers, they primarily work with Indian American and Latin American owner-operators. And they're like, yeah, we're already using these channels to talk with them. But by using VenderFlow, we have an upgraded way, a more enterprise standard to work with them and also capture data from them. And Telegram, my understanding of Telegram is that's more Eastern Europe and Middle East kind of background. And of course, you'll have random people using all these things, but they tend to congeal in these communities. And what's hilarious is when I talk to different brokers, some of them will say, well, Eric, well, obviously WhatsApp is what you need to be supporting. Okay, cool. So, and it's like, tell me what app you like, and I can probably tell you what your driver community looks like. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because another one, they were more deep south. In the south, I mostly hear in Telegram, where they're like, Telegram's obviously the most important one. And they're like, WhatsApp, I hardly know what WhatsApp even is. And it's hilarious because it's such a big part of some people's lives, but it's a zero in other people's lives. Just like you know WhatsApp, but you don't know Telegram. It's probably just a kind of a reflection of the community and folks that you tend to communicate with, you know?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. And, that is interesting. When was the very first time I used WhatsApp? I think I had just moved to Dubai. And that's when, it kind of came to me, just being able to communicate freely back to the folks here in America. And for me, as a freshly graduated college kid, it was a cheaper way. Okay. It was a cheaper way, just using the internet versus having to pay for a calling card. 'Cause that's essentially what we had to do, man. I completely hear where you're coming from with that, but that's very interesting.
If I can add to that a little bit, same experience as you. When I would kind of travel to Europe or this or that, in past years, back when that was a thing, I use WhatsApp for that. But that was more of I'm traveling and so I'm using WhatsApp. Since COVID, I've been using WhatsApp on a daily basis just with my friends and family.
Nice.
It's just exactly like the way you said nice and exactly that tone. It is nice. Like using that app. It's a much easier way to communicate with your friends and family. You can record your voice and sharing images and sharing links. It's just a nicer experience. And I would encourage people to explore these apps. If you've been hearing about them, maybe now's the time to dive in. Because I have some stats here. I don't know if you guys do trivia with your community here in the room. But
definitely. Let's hear it.
I got some stats here. Okay, so WhatsApp monthly active users globally, worldwide. How many monthly active users do you think there are of WhatsApp? Or community, if you wanted to comment.
Well, actually, let me turn on hand raising just in case. But If I just had to guess, monthly users, WhatsApp worldwide.
Yep.
I'm going to say 1.5 billion.
Oh, nice. That is very good. Are there any other guesses, or should I?
Go ahead and reveal.
It's 2 billion, and that is 2 billion as of about 6 months ago. So I'm going to bet you it's a little more. So it's there and growing. To give you a sense of scale for these other apps, Facebook Messenger is about 1.3 billion. WeChat is about 1.3 billion. Telegram is about 600 million. That's globally. And now, your audience might say, okay, well, globally, that's all well and good, but what about this country? Because that's where we're doing most of our moves, right? Well, okay. So I only have the data on WhatsApp in that regard, but for WhatsApp, it's about 75 million Americans are active users of WhatsApp, which I'd say is a pretty good chunk because,
I would too.
Yeah, children aren't really using it, and, I don't think my grandma's using it either. So if you think about the folks who are sort of active in the workforce and all that good stuff, it's a pretty good chunk of Americans are already on these apps, and that's our whole philosophy. Why make people install another app when they already have the app? It's called WhatsApp, and on WhatsApp you can share your GPS, you can share documents, and one of the fun things that I can't really show because we're an audio only conversation here, but in WhatsApp, the broker can push a little what I call a microform. Just imagine in WhatsApp natively. A little thing that says, hey, accept load or reject load. 2 little buttons in WhatsApp. You can just press it right there. You don't have to click a link and go to a place and then do something. No. Right in WhatsApp, you accept the load or reject the load or whatever the request for data may be. So that's what we're leaning into. Because big picture, these apps, they're all on a mission. WeChat, Telegram, WhatsApp, they're on their kind of world conquest mission. You know what I mean? Like they're adding payments and they're adding e-commerce and they're adding advertising and all this media, all this fun stuff, right? And over time, I'm bullish over here that they're going to add more and more and more capabilities to allow logistics organizations to communicate with drivers in the direction we're going.
Yes, sir. Okay. So when you kind of mentioned some of the technology just is already natively in WhatsApp, would you say that you mentioned that they are able to share their GPS. Are you saying that, some brokerages are able to tap into someone's GPS by way of their WhatsApp to keep accurate tab of where they are?
Yeah, it would be, but there's a really important distinction to be made there, because our belief is that we want the driver to always feel in control and sort of comfortable with when and how they're sharing the location. It's kind of upsetting when you install an app that you don't know, and it's just like, okay, well, I assume it's just tracking me all the time. I don't know. It's never clear. It's always a little shady, always a little upsetting.
I would say a lot of my drivers have issues for that very reason. But
trust issues, and rightly so. I don't blame them. It's cool. But WhatsApp is different, right? Because it's just like how you share with your friends. You choose to share or you don't, and you're in control. There's no one else who's going to take it from you or grab it from you without your explicit consent on a case-by-case, moment-by-moment basis. So we're a big believer in putting that power in the hands of the drivers to share when it's requested, in a more, we think it's a much more respectful way to be, because, the phone is not the truck. Sometimes the driver gets out of the truck. Sometimes the driver does personal stuff, and you know what? And, I don't want to track that. I don't think they want to track that either.
Well, true. Well, I guess my question, while you hit it, was more so, is that something that, could be something that a driver utilize? Not saying that they're trying to sneak it in, but is it possible for that tracking to then be provided to VenderFlow? So what if... Yeah,
right.
Okay, go ahead.
Fair point. Let me clarify that. So, okay, let's say a dispatcher at a broker wants to request the location of a driver, and they're already kind of set up in VenderFlow, and the driver's using WhatsApp. Okay, great. The dispatcher would, on VenderFlow looks a whole lot like Slack or Microsoft Teams or Discord, if any of y'all use this kind of team chat communication solutions, or any like Dialpad or RingCentral, like that, right? Okay, so you got your driver, and you push a location request kind of template at them. And the driver sees, okay, the broker wants my location, I can share or I cannot share, and they share. And then VenderFlow captures the GPS data, the latitude, longitude for the software developers in the house. That's what they want to hear, and that'll go to the TMS. So to be clear, VenderFlow is not trying to be the TMS. No. We are capturing the data that flows into the TMS. So we need to integrate with TMS so that the TMS is up to date. And if the TMS is up to date, then a lot of downstream folks are going to be happier because they'll have better visibility into what's going on.
Okay, I got you. Well, look, this is a very, very random, integration question.
Sure.
Would it be able to integrate with something that's not a TMS, but something that is just as important, like a phone system, like a RingCentral or something like that?
Yeah, so certainly beyond TMS, we see like ERP and visibility platforms like Project 44 as kind of the same class, like systems that want to be updated with this type of data. Now, in terms of RingCentral and Dialpad, that's interesting. I mean, there's definitely an opportunity there. We would have to learn about what RingCentral can do to be able to push those things. But there's certainly opportunity. With the way that VenderFlow works, though, to be clear, it's not just pushing the templates, but also just loose communications too, just whatever you want to say to them. But we give you these templates as well, so you can, when you're looking to capture structured data, like booking loads, capturing documents, capturing GPS.
Right. Yeah. The reason why I'm asking is specifically for that. I've learned recently that RingCentral, you can definitely text from, let's just say your business number or your direct line within your business. So it keeps things nice and easy. You don't have to use your personal cell phone when you're dealing with all of these random drivers.
Right.
Now, to see if, something like your your service, VenderFlow, being able to tap into something like that, it would just, it would be cool. Because my next question was, when somebody is sending a text message, because the driver's preferred way of communicating is via text message, what number is actually popping up?
Yeah, that's a very important point. Because if it's an unrecognized number, I don't pick it up, and I don't expect other people to pick it up either. I get it. So when VenderFlow sets up or does the setup process with a broker, we basically grab their business phone number and make sure that that's tied into this. So any communication that's being pushed through VenderFlow is absolutely the business line. So, and some of the feedback we've gotten from other brokers is, even with things like RingCentral, where I understand it's kind of like one employee is one number, another employee is another number, another employee is another number. Our style is more, it's the organization. So if the broker is called Acme Logistics, then they're going to get a text message from Acme Logistics, and that'll be the phone number of Acme Logistics. They call it back. It'll be, hey, thanks for calling Acme Logistics. So it's got to be to a high standard. It can't be some random number, for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to get to with my own organization. I love the fact that I have the ability to just have one standard number, one main number. And then I can text off of RingCentral. I can, use the app on my phone to make the calls or make the text messages, all the same. But everybody else in my organization has that same ability. So, that wouldn't be that wouldn't kind of dissuade me from using VenderFlow, that, it would have to come from a main phone number. I guess we could talk about this later, to see if this is something that I can actually get integrated to my system, because I'm interested. There are so many different people that are using different ways of communication. So the fact is, I'm a fan of the one-stop shop, so.
I appreciate that. And our whole philosophy here is being low friction. So it's important to make a distinction. This is additive in nature. In other words, it's not like, you got to rip out your whole phone system just to use VenderFlow. No. Whatever you got in place, you got a lovely phone tree voice going on. Keep it. Great. Keep it. This is additive. So now, in addition to everything you have, you can also send messages to WhatsApp, Telegram, and beyond. So that's an important distinction, because I get it. Folks are always cautious to launch some huge software migration project. Never fun. Always takes forever. That's why we want to keep it simple, keep it light, and additive.
Yes, sir. So, you guys have been going for a couple years now. Who was then the first, earliest adopter? What company would you say was your first customer?
Yeah, no, probably our first sort of a true believer, if you will, is Best Bay Trucking. So Param Singh is the owner. He's been fantastic with us, and they have a bit of a track record of trying out the new stuff on the block, and so we naturally gravitated toward folks who have a track record of being open to experimenting with new stuff and giving us that great feedback, and they have been working with a primarily their owner-operator group. They're a drayage company out in Port of Oakland primarily. But the drivers they work with, a lot of them come from the Sikh Indian community. And so they've already been using WhatsApp this whole time until VenderFlow comes along. Okay, great. Well, now they have an enterprise standard. So it's not 20 employees using their personal WhatsApps. No. Now it's Best Bay. It's much more professional using a business account WhatsApp to reach these drivers and capture the data that flows back into the TMS. So they've been wonderful to work with, and
nice.
Couldn't have been more pleased. We need those kind of early partners to really give us the feedback. We don't want a transactional relationship. We want a much deeper relationship where we're really talking, we're really communicating, and understanding what the needs are so we can do our best.
Yes, sir. That's the way in which you start, building up the systems and making it a more robust system when you have that partnership with somebody who can really give you the in and outs of what they need, even after they have a nice service. What would make it a little bit stronger? What would be, the next thing? So, you got to have that working relationship in order to get that.
Always. Yeah, absolutely. And we've started modestly. We've started mostly with drayage folks, because that's kind of what we come from. Those are our roots. That's a lot of our network. But we're expanding into full truckload and LTL and all that as well. And, there's a big need in cross-border because, especially cross-border to Mexico. I don't know quite so much about cross-border to Canada. But if it's cross-border to Mexico, it's WhatsApp, the end of discussion. And that's the communication that the drivers use. So let's make it easy on ourselves and reach them where they are. So it's kind of funny how that works as well. But, there's a broader... I'm sensing a broader cultural shift within trucking, and what I mean by this is so I go to these conferences, TIA conference and Manifest conference and things like this, right? And what I'm hearing from more and more and more brokers is this realization that, like, yeah, we commissioned our IT department to build an app, or we use the TMS app for the drivers, and they're coming to realize, there's nothing to feel bad about. Drivers just don't want to use these things, and no matter how many features you want to add to that thing, it's just not going to happen. And so they're coming to this conclusion together that, like, yeah, maybe there's got to be a better way to be more accommodating to drivers. A funny little story I heard was more on the China side of the ports. So Port Drive-In and the Port of Ningbo in Hong Kong, or whatever the names of those ports are, they have an issue because American shippers are hoping those Chinese drivers will use American visibility apps. And good luck with that. I don't even know if you can install an American app in China.
Right, wow.
And so, well, what we can do, though, is integrate with WeChat. And, I'd like to say that I'm the first and only guy who's ever thought about this. No, these folks are already thinking about that, already talking about that. So we're sensing that, like, the market is kind of coming to this realization that, okay, the trucker app is kind of that's a little harsh to call it a failed experiment, but it's an experiment that has great limitations. And there's got to be another way to reach drivers, to acknowledge that drivers are diverse. They got their own preferences. They got their own way to work. And rather than fighting them and doing the whole carrot and stick routine with we're going to quick pay you if you use the app, and we're going to pay you slow if you don't. Come on now. Let's find a more respectful way to work with drivers.
Yes, sir. I agree with you 100%. And, I thought I was very surprised when you said Best Bay, because of all companies, yes. I'm getting into, secrets out the bag now, because I'm about to say, hey guys, I'm getting into port operations. All right.
Oh,
so, having carriers that want loads from various ports in the Southeast, holla at me. But Best Bay is one of those companies that I was looking to work with, on, some stuff here in the local Atlanta area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm looking to build a relationship with them. I have spoken to one person so far, but Eric, you might be the plug, man. Hook me up with some of your guys, okay, with the Drayage communities, because I'm interested, very, very interested.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
Port Drayage is a funny time, with it's arguably sort of the cradle of a lot of the supply chain challenges that have been observed over the last couple of years. And my understanding is there might be some antitrust action against the steamship lines, which might help to reduce some of the messiness and the fees and stuff. But I've been talking to shippers lately. Now, VenderFlow doesn't typically sell to shippers, but shippers feel the pain point of not getting the visibility they need. They got an opinion on that for sure. And the feedback we've been getting from shippers lately is that drayage is sort of the black hole. It's like, great, we have good visibility when it's on the steamship line that come across the ocean. Great. We got pretty good visibility when it hits the terminal. Great. And then it disappears. And then it shows up at the warehouse. You know what I mean?
Right.
So and drayage is tough because there's so many owner-operators. And when it's owner-operators, it's hard to do the ELD tracking thing because it's so one-off. It's so varied. It's so messy. And so we actually see a lot of opportunity in particular around drayage visibility. Also a high density of immigrant drivers. So therefore, a high density of folks who use these apps that we've been talking about on this call.
Yes, sir. All right. So in layman's terms, folks, if you have some port operations, some drayage operations, holla at our man Eric right here, because he has an app for you. He has a program, a software for you that might make your day a little bit easier. So I did want to say that. And what's the service like? Are there different tiers that people get? What's the price looking like if somebody was interested in VenderFlow?
Well, in terms of tiers and stuff, it's so we target what I would call sort of mid-market level organizations. So that would look like a broker or a drayage carrier who works with owner operators that has, let's say, more than 15 employees. But also less than 1,000. we're not quite ready for the biggest of big leagues. That's why we say kind of mid market. Maybe that translates to something like 40 million in revenue to 500 million in revenue. You could say that's a really big range, but there's definitely a lot of folks above and below those numbers. So we tend to work in that stage because there's going to be a whole process of getting your business line set up through the sort of the WhatsApp Business API and these other channels. So yeah, that's kind of the stage we're at. We charge annual subscription and then by usage. In other words, how many messages you're sending. It's hard to. Sorry for the cop out. I apologize, but it's hard to give a specific dollar figure on the call. But it's a matter of just understanding what the needs are and going from there, of course.
Okay. Yeah, I completely understand. And, nobody want to be locked to that rate in case, something happens. So, no, I completely understand. I respect it. I like the way you did it. I was thinking, I was like, man, I don't know if he answered my question yet.
well, no. So what's funny though, and just to be transparent, we're still a fairly early stage company, so
yes,
we're still figuring this out with our early customers. Honestly, our objectives as a company right now are to demonstrate a good handful of happy customers before we get ahead of ourselves with trying to scale up in all these different directions. It's more of a relationship with our early adopters that's really important to sort of nurture, as they say. And our real goal, our real motivation, if you want to call it an ulterior motive, call it what you like, is to have positive case studies, positive testimonials. From our early adopters. That's our goal that we're going to be focusing on through spring and summer and likely beyond before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yes, sir. The purest form of marketing is word of mouth from somebody who has used your service. So, no, I think that's awesome.
Especially in this industry. I hope we never have to do the email blast where you buy a sketchy list, 10,000 emails, and you blast them or they never heard of you. I hope we never have to do that. I really hope that this will be more of a referral style arrangement. And so far, that's how it's been. I mean, almost everyone I talked to has been some friendly fella or woman, referring to another in the network. And that cuts both ways, doesn't it? So if you burn a couple people, then, oh boy, does that get around in the other direction. So that's why we've been cautious and careful to make sure that we're doing this in a responsible way.
Yes, sir. I mean, that's, if we're talking about last week hearing from Abby, she said that same exact thing. Them being a brand new company, there was one person that got a little hurt by the operation, and they went on. They had a mission on, giving them 1 star. So no, I definitely understand where you're coming from, sir. Scale responsibly.
That's right. That's
the
word. That's right.
Yeah. So look, let me ask this question then. Since you are in the earlier stages of where you want your company to be, and somebody was hearing this message right now, are there opportunities for investments or like investing, people getting, in on the early side of things?
Right. No, that's a good question. Let me provide context and then I'll give a straight answer. I mean, the straight answer is yes, in theory. Like in theory, always sure. You know what I mean? But let me provide some context to that. So we raised some venture capital in July of last year. We raised from a couple of VCs, one called 10110, one called Amplify LA. We chose these VCs. Well, one, culturally, we really like who these people are. They feel like we understand them and they understand us, and they're operations folks. Like they've done the work. They're not just like pure finance folks, And they've invested in great logistics tech companies. They've invested in companies like NavTrack and Flock Freight and Optimal Dynamics and Platform Sciences and Clutter. And we say, okay, you know what? If we feel like we're in good company if we're along those logos. That's a good place to be. And we also got some angel investment as well. So the CEO from Project 44, Jet McCandless, he put in a little bit, as well as the CEO of Flock.
Oh, nice.
And,
for both of them, nice.
yeah, for sure. We're thrilled with the folks we got around the table. The rule you want to have as an early stage tech company is what I call no uncle money. Your uncle wants to put in some money or whatever, but it's like, okay, but does your uncle work in supply chain? Like, does he know people in this industry? Does he really understand what we're doing? Or is it just money for the sake of money? You want people who, in so investing, they are now also on your team. They're going to fight for you. They're going to make great intros. That's what you want. So through that lens, that's what we look for in folks who are investing. It's almost like hiring an employee. You know what I mean? You want to make sure it's someone who you really share values with, and we're gonna work together for years to come.
Yes, sir.
But,
No, I
but yeah, the answer
understand.
is yes, in the sense of like, yeah, I mean, of course we're open to it. But yeah, most likely later in summer, we will pursue what I would call a formal fundraising process
Okay.
through venture and angels. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. It makes perfect sense, especially when you're in this stage. You do want people who are going to, bring you more than just money, give you
Yeah.
opportunities, be an advocate, open some doors, give you
Yeah.
some best, practices on how to scale to here. Yeah. So I completely agree, brother. Okay. And are there any applications you're thinking for this outside of trucking?
That's funny, when people talk about the long term and long game, I got a couple notes on that. One thing I'd like to comment broadly on logistics tech software, if I may. It's a
Go for it.
related point, which is that I think it benefits logistics tech software to have a clear identity, which is why I have so much respect for Project 44. They are the visibility layer of logistics, or that's my best. I'm sure their marketing department would have slightly different words, but you get the gist of it. Like, it's very clear.
They are great. They are great.
This is what they do. This is what they're good at. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, and it would be very, very faux pas to name names, but there's a lot of logistics tech companies where they kind of claim to do everything, and in the name, it's the name of the software has either the word truck or cargo or freight in it, and it's like, man, like, you can't tell the difference between all these companies because they're all a TMS and a load board and a visibility platform and a matchmaking algorithm and a pricing engine and a this and a that and a that. And when I went to the TIA conference, the IT buyers, they were like, man, like I got a wallet full of company budget ready to buy, but I can't tell a damn difference between these companies. So they all claim to do everything. It's not clear what they do. Do I have to buy all of it or just modules? Man, it's a mess. And that's why we as VenderFlow, we talk about the long game. We always want to be in this communications layer kind of lane, if you will. Now to your question about where we're going with this, absolutely. We see this going beyond just communicating with truck drivers. We think truck drivers is a great place to start because that's where there's a big problem, big pain point. But as my earlier example or analogy around Calendly, where you send someone a link and they can book the calendar invite, same idea with a lot of logistics interactions. Maybe you're a shipper that wants to ask a warehouse if they have room for 3 more pallets. You might want to push that to them in a way that the shipper can kind of accept the request with a click, rather than just writing back and forth and then having to transcribe it into the system. So we see VenderFlow being this little supercharger for any communications in supply chain, where operations folks are talking with operations folks in other companies. Warehouses, terminals, steamship lines, all these other manufacturing. That's where we see this going, big picture, long term. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you for the additional context and for no, certainly, because I like to be able to see how things relate, especially from somebody else who's in the industry in a different role than I'm in. So you're seeing it from a different way than I am on a daily basis. So I love to hear those new perspectives and get me some more understanding on how things are shifting, changing, and coming together all at the same time. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, look, dude, I'm going to open it up for questions. So if you had any questions about VenderFlow or just to Eric in general, please raise your hands. But in the meantime, Eric, I wanted to know, is there anything that you wanted to say that we didn't get a chance to touch on already?
Oh, boy. I think we covered a good amount. It might come to me in a moment. But no, I'm pretty pleased with what we covered.
Okay, yeah. I'm very grateful to have you on stage, brother. If there are any questions, please go ahead and raise your hands. Otherwise, we're going to just, go ahead and bring the room to a close. But ultimately, I did want to just say, congratulations on, everything that you've done thus far. I know that you guys are just getting started. So, you have so many other places. I can't wait to see where you guys are a month from now and then 2 months from that. I know you're just going to continue to grow, and it's exciting to be able to talk to you at this point because I know where you guys are going. So congratulations. And I do hope to stay in touch, brother. Did you, and that's basically it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And just a brief plug. I mean, if anyone interested in following what we're up to, I would say our LinkedIn page is is really the spot. That's where we post everything. That's where we have everything going on. We don't really tweet much. We don't really have a Facebook page. So if anyone is interested, LinkedIn would be the spot to check us out. Just type in the company name, VendorFlow. That's OR, not ER. And you'll get there. So thank you so much for the time and everyone's attention in the room as well. Greatly appreciated.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, guys, tune in on Monday, 7:30 a.m. as we partner with FreightWaves to do the hot and not list, where to send your trucks to and where to avoid with their sonar team. Eric, you have a blessed one, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.